That's
I'm
what
at 7 right
I. Slacker. Dance with me, Joe.
now. Too early, Ira. It's actually not too early, but man.
It's your fault it's too early. I should still be asleep.
I agree.
It is 6:03 in the morning. LinkedIn doesn't want to turn on for me. It's like, Ira, go to bed.
That's why I was going on the phone just so I could bring it up. It's not on yet for you?
That's her. Yeah, I got it. Good morning, people.
Sunny California.
Right? When I say sunny, I mean crack a freaking dawn. Sunny. Good morning, Joe Stepke.
Good morning, Ira Bowman. How are you?
I still hate your guts.
I know you do.
Let me drink some of this magical brew and I will be better eventually.
I am sure. So I'm sure you want to talk about comics today, so we could go straight into that, right?
Straight to Batman sucks. Yeah.
I mean, if that's what you wanted to do, but
I was up all night worrying about, do people like Batman more than Superman? You know what I mean?
My God, please do not compare those two with my comic book characters. Please don't.
Yeah, except for Biden is Alfred. That guy, legitimately, it was 1 something in the morning. And on well, I'm not gonna mention the channel that I was watching at that particular time. I think I've told you my strategy. I oscillate. I don't stay on one channel.
Right.
I watch a couple different channels. So one of the channels I was on, they were legitimately talking about the strategies between the two campaigns. And I'm not even going to name the campaigns. Like, you know, we're not going to stump for anybody here. If you're looking for that in the wrong place, but I'm just talking about the coverage itself.
Right.
They were talking about the polls and the inaccuracy of the polls. They were wildly inaccurate, mostly. Right. I mean, this was supposed to be a blowout. This was supposed to be a blue wave. It was going to be a, slap Trump in the face for how he's handled COVID. That's kind of the way the media had reported it. Forget what actually happened for a moment. You know, that the media is supposed to be, and this is a huge problem to me, and I'd talk about this the whole hour if you want. The media is supposed to be unbiased. It's supposed to be, take your opinions out of it and tell us the who, what, when, where, why, and how. That's the journalistic creed. Those are the questions. That's what they are supposed to do. You shouldn't have to worry if you're watching CNN, Fox, NBC, ABC, CBS. You shouldn't have to worry.
Right.
You as a viewer shouldn't have to say, okay, these are the rose-colored glasses that this channel espouses. You shouldn't. And I don't remember as a kid watching Walter Cronkite or any of them thinking, well, that dude's a Democrat. He's going to tell me the Democrat opinion, or that guy's the Republican. He's going to skew. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the first one I really remember being openly biased was Rush Limbaugh. Now, I happen to be a Rush Limbaugh fan. I really like Rush Limbaugh. But when I heard Rush Limbaugh speak, I knew that he was conservative. He wasn't giving me the liberal point of view. You know what I mean? In fact, he spent an hour blowing it up. It's kind of what made it awesome, because it was radical. You know what I mean? Now it's like all of them do that, one way or the other. But anyways,
right.
I wish media would get back to, you want to fix a lot of what's wrong with civics in the United States. Stop giving us biased media, and trying to work people up into a lather, frankly, even more than that. You know what I mean? Like ravenous, we all have rabies, because all we hear is angry political positions from one point of view or the other.
Right.
It's not really news. It's, it's satire is what it really is. And that's, I wish they would change it to, the nightly satire report as opposed to the nightly news, because maybe people would understand what they're getting. Anyways, I think that's one of the many things that I'm not in love with the way things are done anymore. But how about you? Let's talk about you. So obviously you usually go to bed around 9:30, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. I usually go to bed around 9. I was sitting in the living room watching it and just listening to everything else, listening to the local and everything. And my daughter came up and she goes, "Dad, I don't know why you're staying up. We're not going to know today." And my son did the same thing. And I think I stayed up till 10:30, but then I went upstairs. Now upstairs I have the streaming services, Hulu or whatever. Well,
Yeah.
Hulu had on something. I just turned it on for white noise as I was going to bed. I'm telling you, I woke up almost like every 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, looking to see where everything was.
I turned everything off for that reason. I'm like, I can't.
I should have. My eyes really show it this morning.
My eyes are leaking. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not. I don't know if the audience can see it. I've got to pull back a little bit. But, if we're staring just at me, like my eyes are still like, ooh.
Right.
I thought about texting you.
And saying no?
Yeah.
I was waiting for it too.
At 1 o'clock in the morning because I was thinking, we don't usually do politics on this show.
Right.
And we're not going to do politics. Hey, if you're waiting for us to argue about Biden won or Trump won, we're not going to do that. That's not what we do here. We'll be respectful whoever wins. I can tell you that.
I will. I was telling.
I know that Joe Stepke fought for this country. He fought for your rights to vote the way you want. And I didn't. I was the coward that didn't. But at the end of the day, I still believe that everybody gets a vote, and at the end of the day, we tally them up, and the winner wins. And no fraud.
You respect the president, no matter who it is.
He's my president. It's the office. It's not always the man.
Right.
And when you don't like the man in the office, then you vote for the next guy next time.
Correct.
And I use the word man because it's always been a man, by the way. If a woman ever wins, then it'll be the woman.
Right.
So I respect the person even when I don't respect the person, if that makes sense. And look, I was actually thinking about this last night because I voted. I have a preference in the race, and I'm not even going to tell you who it is because it's irrelevant. But here's the thing. In my lifetime, it's been about 50-50. Just going back, okay, so since I personally have voted, and I have not missed an election since I was 18, I just haven't because I think it's part of my civic duty. Okay.
Right.
So I'm not the guy who shirks jury duty and all those things. Like, if you call me, my jurisprudence, I'm going to do it. Right? That's what it is. So here's the deal. I've lost as many as I've won, as best I can tell. Now, I live in a place they vote the opposite of me most of the time. So I usually lose the state I'm in, and I've had this thought before, like, well, my vote doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? I know going into the vote that the state, the majority of the people are going to vote the other way every single time.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. Like, honestly, let's talk about that for a minute. Your role is to put your voice in through your vote, and then that's it. The rest is up to, the election officials to do their job. No fraud. Again, no fraud. It irritates me that, there seems to be a lot of fraud. And this happens every election. It's not just this time. I don't know that it's any worse this time than any other time. I know that a lot of people were nervous about it on both sides. People on both sides of the fence are worried about it. And I think we as a nation should do everything we can to make sure there is no fraud. And, like Joe Biden said, I actually agree with him. Let's count every vote. There's nothing controversial with that statement. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let's count every vote. Now, we need to make sure they're legitimate 100%. And if people didn't hit the deadlines, then look, if you show up for business after it's closed, the business is closed.
Right.
Same thing. But if people put the ballot in the mail and it's postmark November 3rd. Count it.
Right.
Count it up. You know what I mean? And we were just talking about that right before. You said they had, or Michigan, the total had just changed.
Yeah, it changed.
It had been read. It had been not declared, but it had, Trump had been leading.
They're 94% reported. Biden's at 49.3. Trump's at 49.1. Wisconsin is 95% reported. 49.6, 48.9.
Yeah. What site are you looking at? Because I think everybody's
at Associated Press.
Yeah, I think that's what most people use AP's numbers anyways. I've got Fox News open and I've got ABC open.
I only use this. Actually, my son showed me this yesterday. He goes, Dad, this is what you want to look at. Okay.
Well, AP is the Associated Press is the results most channels are pulling from anyways. But again, like just so everybody is clear, right? Like just understand what you're looking at. You're looking at projections still, because there's a couple different things that they look at. They look at the model, they look at the pre-polling data, and they look at the raw data. So there's three things there.
Right.
And then the quote unquote decision desks, when they make the calls, are not the calls of the states. That isn't like Wisconsin going, okay, this looks like Biden's declare a winner. We're declaring for Biden. That's not how it works. You know what it is? It's a group of people. They're analytical. Look, I call myself a nerd all the time, and you guys giggle, but this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. We look at analytical data, and we make decisions based on the data. That's what it is. So it doesn't mean that it's infallible. It just means it's the most probable. So there are still anomalies that could happen. What are anomalies? Anomalies are they could anticipate like 400,000 mail-in votes, and then they got 1.3 million votes. The anomaly could be, they anticipate, because per the polling data and what they've seen so far, most of the people who voted in person in the United States yesterday, who showed up to the ballot and punched a ticket, were heavily leaning towards Trump, Republican, right? Most of the people who mailed in were heavily leaning towards Democrat Biden, if you can follow me.
Yeah.
So if you have more mail-in ballots than you thought, or less, and or the ratio variant is different than what you anticipate it to be, that would be considered an anomaly at this point. So when you look at Michigan, for example, and you go, okay, well, it's really close, and it's a razor's edge. If those mail-in ballots break more Republican than they thought they would, that could change the whole election. You see what I mean?
Right.
So, in Pennsylvania, in Minnesota, because Minnesota was pretty close too. Even we were looking at Virginia. Virginia at one time looked really good for Trump. Now, the reason why it went to Biden was, again, because of those mail-in votes. They had a bunch of data. They updated it, and then all of a sudden, like, Biden was like crushing him. You know what I mean? It went from, I think it was like 65%, if I remember this right. Don't hold me to this 100%, but if it was like 60, it was 65% reported, and I think Trump was up by like 200,000 votes with 96% reporting. You're like, well, there's no way. Why aren't they calling it? You know what I mean? But then all of a sudden an update, and it was like, bam. You know what I mean? Biden. Yeah. So who knows?
But that's what I'm looking at on here, and that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of these, even when they call it, like I'm looking through like how many. So one's 58% reported, but they still call it for one or the other. 64%. So we got to wait till everything is reported in. Now they know more.
But listen to what I'm saying here. This is how they make these calls. So this might help everybody. Maybe you're not as big as geek as I am, which is probably true for most.
Hey, Rakesh.
Okay. So the way this works, and I'm going to roll through these comments as I'm speaking. So there's pre-polling data, right? That's what we all see before the election, we go, okay, this state's probably going to go this way. This state's probably going to go this way. Let's talk about Iowa for a moment. Most polls pre-election had Iowa going to Biden from 4 to 7%.
Right.
It actually was very inaccurate. This is what I mean by inaccurate polling data, because after the polls were counted, after the votes were counted, not the polls, the actual votes, Trump ended up winning by 8%. That's a huge change. Anywhere, 12 to 15% change. So they were, I hate to say completely wrong, but I don't know what they were looking at. You know what I mean? But some of the data was correct, like Arizona. The pre-polling data matched or aligned with the exit poll data, aligned with the forecast model, aligned with the raw ballots as they were being counted. So when Biden at like 45%, Fox called it pretty early, but they were up. Biden was up by like 200,000 votes at the time, with 2.4 million votes in, and 3.8 million, I think, is the anticipated total. But they go, look, he would need to carry like 65% of the remaining votes to win. And we think he's going to carry 44% of it. That's why they make the call. You see what I mean? So you have to look at all of it. And it's still, like I said, it's a judgment call. They're using statistical methods. They're using analytical methods to figure this stuff out. You don't have to agree with it. It's not about feelings. And you might get pissed off at a state like North Carolina. You look at it and you go, well, there's 94% ballots in, and Trump's winning. Why don't they call it for him? Well, because the margin of error still gives Joe Biden, a legitimate chance.
Yep.
Not even just a chance. Right? Because I hate to tell you, like California and New York, it's over. You know what I mean? But you knew that going in, right? California and New York were never
go for now. California, and I'm only saying this, and I get it, because it's 65% towards Biden, 32.9, but it's only 64% reported. So obviously they're saying there's no way they're going to get this many up.
So here's the thing: if you guys really want to get into it, what you can do, go into any of these election maps, and I actually really like the Fox map for this. Okay, so if you go to Fox News, go into a state, you can look at the counties. Okay, look at the counties that are reporting. This is the easiest way to do it. You don't have to go back to 2016 or 2012 results, although that does help. Okay, there's all kinds of data that you can use. But if it says 49% reporting in a county, just look at the split. If it's neck and neck, it's like for every 10, 8 goes to, for every 10 votes, 8 goes to one candidate, 2 goes to the other, or, for every 10, 6 is going to one and 4 is going to the other. Whatever that is, just take that number and multiply it out to fill in the gap. So, take the totals, multiply it by 0.51 or 0.49 or whatever's left, or you can divide however, but just fill it up so it would be 100% and just hold those ratios. And then add all that up. And that's a quick and easy. It's not the most accurate, but it's pretty darn accurate. If you do it that way, that would give you a good idea. When you do that in counties in California, the margins are not going to shrink for Biden. They're going to build.
Right.
It just is what it is, right? You look at every major metropolis in the United States, almost without exception, and they vote Democrat. You look at every urban center, and that's the way it is. You go to suburbia, where the population is more spread out, and they almost always go conservative, almost without exception. It's almost always true. And so, our country is very, very evenly divided. I mean, this is probably going to be
I was this last night. It is scary.
It's not scary. I think it's awesome. I actually think it's awesome. The thing that we need to do as a country, though, is realize that the people on the other side of the aisle are not. I almost swore. What do you hear? They're idiots. They're stupid. They're racist. They're ignorant. They are elitists. They're all every negative thing. That's what the other side says about the other side. Well, wake up, dude. I don't care how many people tell you nobody likes Trump. Guess what? Over 60 million people like Trump. And guess what? Trump supporters, over 60 million people like Biden too. You know what I mean? This is not a referendum on anybody.
Right.
Trump is not winning by a landslide, and neither is Biden. And actually, if you look at the polls, Biden was supposed to crush Trump. Like this was supposed to be done real quick, and they were using the expression blue wave. And it was going to be a slap in the face for all things Trump has done over the last 4 years, which I don't understand because before COVID-19, we were doing really, really well economically. Now, socially, we still have some major problems, and that's what I'm talking about right now. Like we need to get back to civility in the United States, because for everybody who agrees with you, there's somebody equal and opposite who disagrees with you. Every single one. It's a 50-50 split. Look, this election is going to come down to tenths of a percent in a lot of cases. I mean, It is super, super close. And how many people stayed home yesterday? Those are the people that cost their candidate in this election. For better or for worse, if you didn't vote yesterday, shame on you, because your voice could have made the difference.
Kevin Cox said something, and I saw it on an Instagram post, or maybe it was LinkedIn. I can't remember. And Kevin, if you're out there, how you doing? Good morning. But he said something, listen, whatever happens in the next 4 years, we have to go with it. But I don't want to hear any complaining if you didn't vote, because then you forfeited your right to complain.
Oh, you didn't read my Facebook post yesterday? I said, vote or shut up.
I did see that. I saw that.
I said this right after. I said, I'm not trying to be rude, but seriously, we all get your voice isn't you opining on social media officially.
Right.
Your voice is your vote. If you do not vote, then don't complain about the government and how it's run.
Right.
Because too many people, even last time, how many elections do we have to have before people figure this out? It's really close. You don't look, I'm in California. My guy is not winning California. You know what I mean? But should I stay home? Should I waste my vote or not waste my time? Come on. You have to participate. Mike O'Connor said, or no, I'm sorry, it was my other friend, Alex Simmons said, well, you don't have to vote if you think the system's corrupt. I'm like, what do you mean if you think the system's corrupt? I know the system's corrupt. It's politics. People if they're not cheating, they're not trying.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. I don't like it, but it is what it is. There's nobody who would say there is no corruption in government.
I got to tell you, there was a post that I did see in my neighborhood, and this was a great post. And we just got to go out there, and this person I really admired. I was telling my wife about it too. It doesn't matter whose side you're on. Act civil. Don't gloat afterwards. Don't do anything. Just, hey, it is it is what it is, and let's get to it. And just be nice.
I agree with that. Look, I don't care who wins. That's going to be my president.
Correct.
George Bush was my president. Ooh. Barack Obama was my president.
Correct.
Donald Trump is my president. And Joe Biden could very easily be my next president.
Correct.
And you know what? I'll give him respect.
Right.
Because I don't. I hate George Bush. I hate Donald Trump's Twitter account. We've talked about that before. Like, I wish I'd take that thing away from him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like it. But he's still my president. When he signs something, I still have to obey him. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Now, we don't have a king. This isn't a monarchy. So we still have a Supreme Court. We still have a Congress, which, by the way, the Congress is super close too. We've got a Democratic-run House. We've got a Republican-led Senate. But that Senate last night, that was part of the intrigue. And honestly, I don't know if people pay as much attention to that as they should. More things can happen because of the Senate if the Senate had switched. So if Biden wins and if they had picked up just 3 seats, that's all they would have needed to flip 3 seats. Like Arizona is a flip. Let me explain that for those of you who don't understand. What they typically do is take the map from the previous election, however it went, red or blue. In any state that votes the opposite way this time, they call that a flip. Okay. Now, when you're talking about Senates and Congresses, what you're talking about with a flip is a plus or minus is, okay, who is the incumbent party, not the person, doesn't matter, right? But the incumbent party, if the state elects the other party, that's a plus for that other party, right? So in this case, Democrats needed 3 because in the United States Senate, there's actually 101 members. Everybody thinks about the 100, but they forget about the vice president, who is the tiebreaker. So they count that in the totals. And then you have an independence, which, what they'll typically do is say, well, these are registered independent, but they typically vote for this party or that party, and so they'll count them in that bucket. And there are 2 independents that they count as Democrats right now. But anyways, as long as they hold those 2 Democrats, and if they were able to pick up 3, which as far as I can tell, they didn't. But if they had +3, plus they won the presidency, they would have had a super majority because they would have had all 3. They would have had the presidency, the Senate majority, even though it's not a super majority, it's still, for 50-50 votes, it still would have been. And then obviously they have the Congress still, or they have the House of Representatives. So that was at stake last night. The presidency, the Senate was up for grabs, like legitimate 50-50 ball, with most people predicting the Senate was going to but again, the polls were wrong, which comes back to my point about the inaccuracy in the media, which is, I think, a huge problem. And honestly, when we talk about the tension that's palatable, that you could cut it with a knife.
It has to do a lot with the media.
But I think we all have to step back and go, wait a minute. You're not a majority either way, honestly, right? If you hate Trump and you think everybody hates Trump, you're wrong, because not everybody hates Trump. And if you're, a Trump fan, you think Trump is God's gift to mankind. Well, not everybody feels like you. In fact, just as many people don't. Who won the election? We won't know probably until the weekend. I'm just going to let you all know that right now. And that's dependent on courts. That's presuming nobody sues and stuff ends up in the Supreme Court, which is where it will go if it goes to court. Okay. But if it's just about counting all the ballots and tallying them up, which is what it should be, if it's as simple as that, simple, but right. I mean, that's our process. So, but we know that because of mail-in ballots, some states have already said, we're not, like Nevada. Nevada is not putting out any more results until 9 a.m. my time tomorrow, which is noon for you. So there will be no declared winner of Nevada until at least tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 Eastern. That's just one state. Pennsylvania, I think they have until Friday to count all the votes. And that's 20 electoral votes. And I don't know that either candidate is going to get to 270 electoral delegates without Pennsylvania because of the way it's all going. It's possible that either of them could. Again, it just depends on how these things break. But if nobody can get to 270 without Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is not going to declare until, at least Friday, that puts us into the weekend. And then, of course, we have any challenges that it's not even necessarily the candidate that has to make the challenge. It could be anybody from the parties, right?
Right.
And it could be somebody from, election officials. It could be somebody from the state level. This thing ain't over.
Right.
But if you're wondering where we are right now, according to the AP, it looks like we're at 238 for Biden and 213 for Trump. That's what it looks like. That's presuming Minnesota is for Biden. There's a few of them that some people have called, like, I'm trying to think which one is the most quote unquote controversial. I know Arizona, Fox called them really early, but I think most people have given Arizona to Biden now. And I think
they're 84%.
Yeah, I think he will carry that. Like I said, it's not about feelings. I understand people got upset when they called it as early as they did, but according to the AP right now, with 84%, Biden is up by 97,000 votes. And that's 2.7 million votes in. So, if you do the math, again, if he was to win in the high 60s of all the outstanding ballots, he could still pull it out. And if he does, maybe this will help people too. Calm me down. If he does, the fact that Fox and whatever other news channel declared Arizona the winner is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. The electoral votes are not assigned yet, right? So I don't know if you guys really understand how all this works. On election day, we elect these representatives to vote for us. That election is not happening this weekend. In fact, that vote happens, I believe, in December is when it happens. To go back and look when the Electoral College actually makes their vote. But it doesn't happen in November. So we've got time to figure this out. Somebody asked me, well, Ira, what happens if we go for months and there's legal challenges and no winner is declared because it's not settled? Well, then the way it works is Nancy Pelosi, because she is the Speaker of the House, she's third in line for secession behind, obviously, the Vice President. But in this case, there would be no declared Vice President after January 20th. So Nancy Pelosi would be the acting president of the United States until a winner is certified. So hopefully they figure it out before then. I'm just saying.
I did not know, and actually, that's interesting. Somebody said something on the news today.
But that is the way it would go. It wouldn't be like, for those of you who are like, well, I don't want President Trump to stay in office any extra days until they figure it out. You don't have to worry about that. He wouldn't. He would lose his presidency. It will end. If this thing isn't decided officially, it'll end either way. Right?
And Nancy Pelosi takes over.
And then let's say February 5th. I'm just pulling dates out of my rear end here, but February 5th, the winner is announced and it's Trump, then he would get to take over again. Right? And he would still be considered 45. They wouldn't consider her 46 at that point. She's just a placeholder. She doesn't officially count.
And even if Biden wins, she's still just a placeholder. It wouldn't count. She's not 46.
Right. Yep. Because she hasn't been elected president. She would be acting president.
So when there was something that, and I was watching it on the news, and I don't remember. I think it was CNN, but I don't remember which one. It was that they said everything if Biden's elected. It wasn't even who was elected. It was after all this, Nancy Pelosi is going to change everything that Trump did and reverse it back. Could she do that as a? Oh my God, that is hilarious, Ron. I
actually know that. I know that reference. That's from.
I get it. It was Designated Survivor.
That's from. Oh, that's how I was thinking. He was talking about 24.
No.
I did watch the Designated Survivor show, and again, that's just interesting things that people don't always know about politics. But that actually doesn't happen in this context, Ron. The Designated Survivor happens during the presidential speech. What do they call it?
He knows that.
It's called the State of the Union. So in the State of the Union, they pull one out just in case something happens. Something catastrophic happens during the speech,
Right.
like in the show. I don't want to give it away if you haven't watched it, but anyways, somebody.
I love the show. I think it just season 3 went bad. I think it was season 3 or something like that.
So Gerald, to answer your question, yes, Joe is a veteran, and I'm not even going to address this, dude. You're in the wrong place. Just sign off.
And I'm
just go somewhere else.
And I haven't been in harm's way. Not really.
You served your country, bro. You put on the uniform. You were in Korea.
Yeah, I was. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I was in.
Just because you didn't have somebody shooting at you doesn't mean you didn't put yourself in harm's way. I actually, Gerald lost his respect for me. So, just you're in the wrong place. That's all. You can go shout out, angry stuff wherever you want. We're not taking sides here.
Right.
That's the problem. The problem is you guys have to use your brains, and it has to go beyond junior high cussing. Remember that? Like the first day of junior high, you walked around and all you heard was people swearing. You're like, what is this? Good night. Like this is supposed to be higher education. You're going from elementary school to junior high and nothing but 4-letter bombs. And you're like, what? I would never say all that stuff at home. And then you realize junior high is crazy. Well, people need to grow up, dude. You know what I mean? Like, learn to express yourself without cursing.
Right.
Learn to express your displeasure without having to vilify the other people, and realize that most of what you're probably ingesting is the reason why you think the way you think.
Right.
You don't actually think that from stuff that you know. You think that because of stuff that you hear from, I used the expression at the beginning of the show, rose-colored glasses. Let me explain what that means. If you take a pair of glasses with rose-colored lenses, or let me make it really easy for you guys who have no imagination, put on some sunglasses. What happens when you put on sunglasses and look through them? The world is darker because you're looking through tinted lenses that are dark. Well, if you were to take those off and put on these glasses, all of a sudden the world would be a little brighter because there's no tint. Well, media, which you consume with your mind, is supposed to be just the facts.
Right.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
It isn't. It's satire. I use that term too. It's a big word. You might want to look it up if you don't know what satire is.
Oh, hold on 1 minute. I'll Google it.
Yeah, Google satire, right? You're not getting unbiased information. You're getting information that skews to help you come to a conclusion that matches the opinions of the people that are reporting it.
Correct.
And that's not the way it's supposed to be, but you'd be a fool if you didn't think that's the way it is. Every single media outlet has a skew now. I can't find an unbiased one. Trust me, I look. And again, I'm a bigger nerd than most of you, and I consume more media and more data than most of you. And it's just not debatable. But if you want to look into my background, feel free. But here's the thing. A wise person wouldn't allow other people's opinions, not facts, to get them all worked up. I remember how worked up people were about Obama, and I'll bet you can still get a lot of people's goat. Just ask them, where was Obama born? Remember that?
Yep.
He wasn't born in Hawaii. He was born in Kenya. Okay, gotta prove it. Whether you like the Hawaiian birth certificate or not, there is one. That's not disputable. There is a Hawaiian birth certificate. But I remember that whole election listen to conservatives go like lose their collective minds that we're about to elect a president who isn't even born in the United States, right? Which is not actually, that's not even the standard anyways.
Right.
You don't have to be born in the United States. You have to be a United States citizen from birth.
Right.
That is not the same thing. It's not. Again, people want to get upset, but you don't even know what you're upset about. You're being upset because other people told you something, and then more people confirmed it, and you believed it, but you weren't. You know what I mean?
Very true, Virginia. Very true. Just the facts.
That's what I'm talking about. And I actually would argue with you about Tom Brokaw, but I'm not going to, you know what I mean? Tom Brokaw has a reputation there at the end of making stuff up, which is why he's no longer on the air. Anyways, but Cronkite for sure. In that era, that's what journalism was about. Now, it could have always been this way, and we just didn't know it. But the fact is, there was less outlets, there was less source of information, and so
you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have Instagram, you didn't have all the other social media outlets out there to stir people and rile people. I don't want to say rile people up. It was just so many things, and there's the one post I was telling you about that one of my neighbors did in our neighborhood type chat. It was basically saying there's a lot of fake things going on there.
100%.
Don't believe it, fact check or whatever, and that's it. I really think there's just too much. Anybody could say anything now. They could go like this, hey, this person's this way, and that's it. It's okay. There's no backlash or anything except, oh, I'm sorry, I just made that up.
It's funny.
Not about a side. It's on both sides, whoever you go to, and it's even within the news. That's how come I don't watch it anymore, because you cannot get a clear cut, this is what happened, give me the facts. You get somebody else's opinion on the news.
I'm gonna do something. We've got 18 minutes until your hard stop. Okay, so people don't verify. This is what makes it challenging.
Okay.
And I agree with you, Ron. People don't verify, which makes your job in cybersecurity harder. Okay, so this is ABC News, right? So they don't have Arizona called for Biden. And so if you look at their totals, they're at 225, 213. Look at how close these are, though, right? 66 million people voted for Trump. 68 million people so far have voted for Biden. I don't know why it's not letting me highlight it, but anyways, there we go. Okay. So it's pretty close. It's 2 million people. That's a lot of people. Now, again, you got to go back to what I said. Most urban places, most downtown centers in the United States are going to vote Democrat in the United States. It's just the political makeup of our country. And the further, more farmland, the more, suburban you get, then it kind of switches over to conservatives. So here's two different news outlets, major outlets. We've got Fox and we've got ABC. Okay. Now, they both agree that Trump has got 213. So if I'm looking at this, from my point of view, not from anybody else's, but this is Ira. Okay. I always look for the outlets that come down on different sides, different political affiliations, right? So normally Fox is going to be considered more conservative and ABC is going to be considered more liberal, right?
Right.
So I'm looking at two different sides of the coin and they agree on information, then I go, okay, I can trust that. That's how I consume news. Where they disagree is where I do more research. So let's look at Arizona, because if you study the two maps, the difference is this one right here. Fox has called Arizona for Joe Biden, and I think that's going to be accurate, okay? But here's how you look at this. Then you come into the state and you look at, okay, any of these that are solid, what that means is it's 100% reported done. Those numbers will not change. Those are the numbers. Okay. You look at these lightly shaded colors, and these are the ones that are still out in the open. There's still votes out there to be counted. Now, you see this where it says, I don't know how to say this. It's a Pima or Pima. I don't know. This county, they're 97% in. I don't know if you guys can read this on the screen. I made it as big as I can. Okay.
Yeah.
But with 97% in, there's 275,000 for Biden. There's 176,000 for Trump. If you're trying to do this my way, what you would do is you would take the two totals and add them together. So you'd be at 450,000, basically. And then you would multiply that by 0.3, 0.03.
And see.
Whatever that total is, that's how many votes are left. Then you just figure out the break. So 6 of them are going to go for 6 of those will go to Biden, and 4 of them will go to Trump. So that's how that will work. You do that for all these counties, and then you add those together, and then you can see, does the candidate that's winning hold with those projections, or does the candidate that's trailing overtake the candidate that's winning with the updated? And that's the difference between Arizona and Michigan and some of these other states. Because if you do that, you look at these counties, this is where Phoenix is, okay? 77% of the vote is in. Biden is winning that 5.2 to 4.6, okay? So if you just extrapolate that up, even though it's thin, Biden still wins. That he holds that county. And because he's up 100,000 votes already in the state, unless, remember I was talking about anomalies?
Right.
There's an anomaly where the votes not counted were a pocket of conservative inside a county that's breaking Democrat. That's what it would take for that to flip. If it flips, of course, everybody will change it because they're reporting the news. But there's also, in analytics, there's also some, I hate to say guessing because it's not really guessing.
Right.
But it's forecasting based on what we do know. We take what we know and we apply it to the unknown variables and we project winners. That's what we do in,
right.
Statistics, basically marketing. That's how I can predict, the activities of my customers in advance and focus my campaigns on what I think they're going to do. Anyways, that's how it works. That's why I'm a nerd. Because that's how I use it. I use it for sales. Okay. So when you look at some of the other maps, I don't know if people are interested in that, but if we look at some of the other, I'll bring this back up. If we look at some of the other states, like Wisconsin, right? So it's really close there. Look, you've got 49.6 to 48.9%, 1.6 million. So the difference here is
21.
Yeah. Well, 20,500 basically. Yep. Right. So, and then you come in here and you go, okay, well, which counties aren't reporting? There's only 2. See, all these are solid, 100% in on every county except for this one, which is breaking Trump. And this one, which is also breaking Trump. That's why they can't call it. Biden is in the lead. He's in the lead by 20,000 votes. But will there be enough left over? Now, look, that's 96% in. That doesn't look good. There's going to be a few more votes for Trump, but probably not 20,000 at 96% in. And this one's 97% in. Again, I don't know that there's enough there. But here's the thing also. There can be, how do I explain it? They have ballots that are, there's a term for it in my mind. Just provisional. There you go. Thank you. Just many looks. These provisional ballots, they're accepted, they're counted, but then they have to be verified. Because here's what happens. You request a mail-in ballot, or like in California this year, they actually sent everybody. You didn't have to ask for it. They just sent you one, a mail-in ballot. So that doesn't mean you can't go to the polls and vote in person. It just means if you want to, you can vote mail-in. But I know this is going to surprise you, Joe. Sometimes people, they cheat.
No, I already read up on it.
Right? So there's people
I already read up on it. What if somebody goes and votes?
Yeah. So what they have to do is they have to validate the data and make sure that each registered voter only got one vote.
Right. And
some of these numbers can disappear, is what I'm telling you. And that it's what we call inside the margin of error.
Right.
Inside the margin of error, a statistician is probably going to tell you it's a virtual tie, because that's what we've got going on here in these states. They're virtual ties, and there's not enough data. That doesn't mean that there won't be a declared winner eventually. It just means, it's like Florida. We were talking about this right before the show started. The last time I went to bed, because I'm in the Pacific time zone, the last time I went to bed and didn't know the winner of the election based on what was reported was 2000, because none of us did. We didn't know, obviously, until the Supreme Court got involved, which took a while. So here's where we are, right? We don't have a winner declared in Alaska. We don't have a winner declared in Nevada. We don't have a winner declared in Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania or North Carolina or Georgia. So the election comes down to this, guys. When you add all the votes for the Electoral College, it is possible to have a 269. But either candidate, when they officially hit 270, which actually won't be official until the Electoral College vote happens, because here's the other thing, which I'm sure is going to become a story in the coming days. Electoral candidates are not legally bound to vote for the person they were elected to vote for. Meaning this, somebody, and this has happened before, somebody can vote for the other person. If you get a 272 to a 268, I hate to say this because it sounds awful, but it isn't over yet. Not officially.
No, let me get this straight. I'm just curious here. So
this is why a lot of people want to get rid of the Electoral College. This is the argument for it, which the question you're about to ask and the answer I'm about to give you.
So anybody, no matter what side it is, if it was a red state and that electoral votes were there 11, are there, and I don't mean to sound ignorant or whatever, are there 11 other people that make up that vote that would go into actual vote?
That's 100% right. Okay, so here's what happens.
One of those 11 can change their mind.
Yeah. Okay, so each party, you see, okay, there's 55 electoral votes in California. Okay, most states are winner take all. My son was asking me last night, Dad, what's the deal with these candy stripes? And I said, well, there's two states. There's New England and there's Maine, and that's what this represents out here. They have a total in Nebraska of 5 total electoral votes. So each party, the Democrats and the Republicans, elect ahead of time 5 people, actual people. And they swear an allegiance. They sign a contract saying, if, we win these votes, you're going to vote for our guy or our girl, if that ever happens, right? But our person.
Right.
So there's a real vote that happens in Washington, D.C. The person has pledged their allegiance to that party and to that. And the people have spoken and said, we want you to vote for, this is why we count all these votes up. We want you to vote for whoever. But they're people. And sometimes people change their mind. And there's no legal repercussion for it, by the way. So you can say, well, they're going to vote their conscience. It's what I'm telling you. Whenever it's this close, it's like, dude, you got to think about all the things. This is why we really need to bring back high school civics, because, and teach it. It
But
really,
it could happen in any state.
any state.
It doesn't matter. It could happen in any one, and no repercussions back to that person.
Well, I mean, they sign a contract so they can be sued, but yeah, not legal. Not, you know, as far as the electoral college is concerned, there's no repercussions. That doesn't mean the person themselves is not going to be sued by somebody.
Right.
But they're not, you know, they wouldn't go to jail. There's no civil or no crime. Sorry, there's no criminal, you know, proceeding that would happen. Oh, Montana, you are one of 3 delegates who was pledged to the Republican Party, but you voted Democrat. We're going to put you in prison for contempt. No, that doesn't happen.
Right. Gotcha. I just was wondering. I didn't know that they could do that.
So let me explain these. Let me explain these candy stripes for those of you who are not sure. So the way this works is they've broken it up where there's congressional districts and they assign it by the congressional district.
Yeah, I heard about the Nebraska one that there was somebody that they said one electoral vote went to.
Yeah, it's right here. Here's where it is on their map. Okay, so 2 of them for the state and 3 congressional districts, and one of the 3 congressional districts went Democrat. And that probably would happen in all the states if you were to break it up. Because if you look at the way America votes, your city center, any place that has a concentration of city, right? Like a giant skyline downtown, that kind of stuff, you're going to get traditionally blue votes, Democrat votes, liberal votes. That's just the makeup, the philosophical makeup of the people that live in those areas. That's just the way it is.
Right.
And when you get out into farm country, they tend to be more conservative and vote Republican. And that's just the way it is. Like it or not, I'm not making a statement on, you know, what is superior. I'm just saying that's the way it is. Right. So, you know, if you were to dissect states, most counties and most states go Republican. That's just a fact. Count the number of counties that go Republican. It's always more than liberals, almost always, I should say, because there are exceptions to that rule and in both rules, frankly. But the majority of the time, that's what happens. The difference is there's a lot more people in those fewer counties that, you know, like Los Angeles County went for Biden, right?
Right.
More people in that county than there are in most states. And that's just a fact. So when you look at people go, well, why don't we just have a total majority vote? 69 million versus 67 million. Well, let me tell you why. You see that number 55?
Uh-huh.
If this was actually based on population, that number would be higher, not smaller. California is getting cheated with only 55. The population or the way elections would actually run if it was just majority win takes all. Candidates would spend all their money in California and New York and
Florida
Texas.
and Texas.
I don't even think they would go to Florida. They wouldn't need to. You could win an election just winning those 3 states. And it's not even states at that point because you're just talking about majority wins. Well, how many people are in California? The state of California. Far more people than in any other state. The candidates would come here and spend all their money here. You know, places like Montana, you would never see a candidate. I think Trump ended his campaign in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about stuff like that. How many people are in the state of Michigan? Even with Detroit, you guys have a very small population.
Yeah, but right now, it's one of the states that...
You're not listening to what I said. What I'm saying is that's why we don't switch.
I know.
People always, you know, it seems like people are uneducated about all this stuff, right? They have opinions on it, but they don't know what they're talking about. If the election was just majority wins all, every vote is exactly the same across the country, then Biden won. But the reason why they don't do that is because they want to give Idaho and Maine and Vermont they want to give them a voice, and they don't want the candidates to ignore them. Because frankly, if I don't pick up your 3 million votes in your state, I'm probably going to be okay. You see what I mean?
Right.
They're probably not going to ignore completely states like Illinois, in Ohio, and frankly, Florida. They probably wouldn't ignore them completely. But do you think they're going to go to New Mexico or Hawaii or Alaska? You know what I mean? Like, that's why it's done that way. So, anyways, I know you got to go, bro.
Yeah, I got to go.
So,
and next week, can we talk about e-commerce?
Yeah. And
it's Veterans Day next week, too.
I want people to go to your website because you just posted, I know, because I put it up for you. You just posted a new blog. And it is interesting. Is e-commerce the savior of the retail business in 2020? And the answer is maybe. Because what people do for Christmas will determine that. It's that close. It's kind of like this election. It could go either way.
Right. Well,
read the article.
Video tomorrow on the e-commerce.
Yeah, joethefinanceguy.com. Read his blog.
Please do.
And come back next week. I'm going to stick on for a little bit and see if there's any questions I missed.
All right. Awesome.
I'll be bop out.
All right. And I'll talk to you. I'll give you a call later on today after I get done. All right.
Brother. Good luck with your call. See you.
Bye.
All right. So that is my amigo, Joe Stepke, who makes me get up way too damn early on Wednesday mornings. But again, if you weren't here earlier, what I've got here is I've got two different maps up. I've got the ABC map and I've got the Fox map. They're pretty much the same. They're all pulling AP data. The only difference is their decision desks, as they like to refer to themselves, have Fox declared Arizona for Biden. So those totals are in, versus ABC, who has still yet to declare Arizona. I guess they think it's too close to call. You'd have to ask them. But anyways, they have not declared that one. So the totals, that's the difference in the totals. It looks like there's one outstanding one, which would be one of those congressional districts. So Fox has given the one delegate from Nebraska to Biden. And it looks like that's where he gets the other points. Because 11 plus 1. There you go. 238. Okay, I'm going to go through the questions real quick because I don't want to be on here too long without my partner. Let's see if I missed anything here. Oh, no, looks like I pretty much got everything. Let's see. Only thing that travels faster than light is misinformation. Yes. True. Good morning, Lorena, and good morning, Felton. Okay. If you have a question, let me just open this up for you guys. We only have 8 people on, so I'm not bugging too many people. If you have a question about the election, where we're at, what any of this stuff means, by all means, go ahead and type it in the comment section, and I'll be happy to answer it for you this morning before I jump off. If your question is, when will a winner be decided? I don't think a winner is going to be announced until at least Friday, at the very earliest, but more likely Saturday. Here's why I think that. Because in Pennsylvania, they have until this weekend, till Friday, to receive the ballots that were postmarked by yesterday. So they've given themselves a window to receive ballots that were cast up until election day. So with them being so close, let me switch over to the other map, only because I can dig into it and show you what I'm talking about here. Because it's within what we call, it's within the margin, right? So, oops. This is what I'm trying to do here. Okay. So see these lightly shaded ones, not the ones that are dark red. Those have all 100% reported. Those are the the suburbs, and those are the rural areas. So, there's no major population centers in those parts of the state, and they've all reported. These ones that are light shaded are not completely done. And if you can see them, I don't know if you guys can see, like, it looks like they're mostly done, right? 80s, 70s, 90s. I don't see any of them that are like, 10%. They're 69%. There's a smaller one, 68%. 68%. So, anyways, there's still quite a few votes there. And then you come to these light blue ones, and this is Pittsburgh, for example, right? Allegheny County, that's where Pittsburgh is. And so it's hard to tell because of where this is on my screen. Let me scoot it up so we can read it. I scooted it up too far. Okay. So with 73% of the vote in Pittsburgh, or Allegheny County to be more exact, you have 53.7% of the voters breaking for Biden. You have 45% of the voters breaking for Trump. So if you extrapolate that out with 27% left to be counted, 5.3% of those votes, you expect them to go for Biden if, the proportions hold, which they probably will. So Biden picks up votes here. How many? Well, not a huge amount, right? There's only a 46,000 points, 46,000 raw vote difference between the two, with 515,000 people voting. So if that's 70% of the vote, you've got how many more left? Another 200,000 or so, right? And you're only going to pick up maybe a net of 50,000 more votes max. So that's how we look at it, right? When we're looking at the stats and we're looking at the data. Well, the same thing goes here. You've got Centre County. Now this is 89% in. You've got a 3,000 person split between the two. So this really is a push. This isn't going to change the totals one way or the other. Biden will probably pick up like an extra 200 or 300 votes here. You're not looking at a huge pickup either way. Here again, we have Biden picking up, but you're 98% in. There's a 10,000 person split with only 2% left. So again, you're talking about hundreds, not thousands. This is where Biden has the best shot if he's going to win, because look down here. You got 57% of the vote in. You got a 250,000 person split, meaning 7.6% out of 10 votes. 7.6. We would expect 7.6 of any future votes to come in to break for Biden, unless there's an anomaly. So there, with 43% still to be counted, that's where you make up your votes. And this is why Pennsylvania is too close to call, right? Because if you back this thing up and go just back out to the state level, and you go, okay, well, I'm going to roll this up so we can see it. There we go. Okay. Trump is up right now by 500,000 votes. Let's just make it easy math. Okay. He's up by 500,000. That's a lot. You look at this state, he's up by 500,000 and they didn't call it. And you look at this state and he is only down by 93,000 votes in Arizona. And they did call it. And you go, well, why is that, Ira? That doesn't seem right. And I know it's weird, but I'm telling you that the reason why is inside the state. This one right here, Philadelphia County. This one right here, Delaware County. This one right here, Montgomery County. This is the major population of Pennsylvania, along with Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh is relatively close. If it was just Pittsburgh, it would have already been declared for Trump if these were all in already. But the fact is they're not. And you've got this county right here with, 37% of the vote left to go. And 7.7 out of 10 expected to break for Biden. It puts, I mean, I still feel good. Look, if you're just looking at this from the stats, it still looks really good for Trump. It's more likely that Trump will carry Pennsylvania than not, based on what I'm seeing. Take politics out of it, just based on math, just based on what we're seeing, right? But the fact is, it still could go either way. And so could Arizona, frankly. But it's more likely in this case that this is a sure thing and this is still up in the air because there's so many votes still outstanding in the area for the person. It's breaking for the person that is behind. If it was the opposite and that much was unreported in an area that was breaking for the candidate that was ahead, then they would call it. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys. I don't have any questions coming in, so I'm gonna bounce. This is the kind of stuff I'll probably be doing most of the day because I like it. I am a nerd, but again, my parting shot of wisdom for you guys hopefully is this. And I'm gonna get off the screen. I'm just gonna look you face to face here. All right. The United States is far more split down the middle than anybody has been reporting. I personally don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican because you're an American. We need to remember that today. We need to remember that every day. Don't allow the media to supercharge you and make you angry and have a visceral anger for people who think differently than you. There's far more of them out there than you might think. I can prove it with the map. It's a split 50-50, guys. This is a tight race. It could go either way. If you think half of the country are out of their mind and hate the country, you're wrong. Because they don't hate the country. They just have a different way that they want to manage the country than you do. Either way. My brother is, I hate to say extremely liberal, but he is. I'm conservative, obviously. But my brother is as good a person as you're going to find on this planet. He's super smart. He might be smarter than me. I don't know about that, but anyways, he might be. You ask him and he'll tell you he is, right? So here's my point. My brother's smart. My brother is caring. He's not the enemy. He isn't. And if you think he is, you can unfriend me because he isn't. He has different philosophies. Not different. You know, it's funny. Most of the things we agree on. We want people to be safe. We want people to be healthy. We want people to be educated. We want people to have healthcare. We want people to have a place to live. We want them to be able to pursue happiness in whatever form that is for them legally, right? We agree on all those things. We disagree on where to invest money. We disagree on how to manage it with government. Should something be private or public? That's the kind of stuff we disagree on. It's management styles, guys. Youth have demonized half of the American population when you say those freaking, and then you fill in the blank with liberal or conservative, whatever is the opposite of you. Because, of course, whatever you believe is the saintly version, right? This is what I mean by it's insane. Political parties are not evil. Parties are not evil. Republicans, Democrats, they're Americans. They bleed red when you cut them. They pay taxes. They vote. They go to work. They're trying their best to raise their kids. Now, look, that's not true for every single person, 100%, on either side. There are criminals on both sides of the aisle. Okay? So my advice today is one of a somber reality check. for both parties. There was no referendum by the American people, meaning there's no landslide here. There is no obvious winner. There is no obvious anything. We are we're a nation with almost 50-50 split on politics. If you think that everybody who votes for Trump is crazy, then you think half of America is crazy. And if you think everybody who voted for Biden is crazy, then you think half of America is crazy. Don't get caught up in the media hype. Maybe it's time to take a fresh perspective, step back, and look at America in a different way. Go, okay, why did half the country vote for the other person? They're not happy with this. They're not happy with that. Do you really think that 50% of America was brainwashed? You know what I mean? I don't believe that 50% of America is evil. That's my opinion. Anyways, my name's Ira. This has been Wednesday's Cup of Joe. Joe had to step out early because he had a meeting. It's 10 o'clock in Eastern time zone. It's 7:19 here in California. I'm going to go drink some more coffee. So I'll see you all later. Thanks for joining the show. And I forgot to mention this at the beginning. All the opinions of the show were the expressed opinions of Ira Bowman and Joseph Stepke, not of Acima Credit. Have a great day, everybody. We'll have some music. And I still can't dance.